Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you, San Diego, for that warm, warm welcome. And thanks to Ellen for those moving words, her introduction, and for reminding us that it's not only our men and women in uniform who serve our country, it's their families, their spouses, their children, and we are grateful to each and every one of them. I want to recognize and thank Congressman Scott Peters for being here. Thank you very much. And all of the other electeds and service members, active duty and retired, National Guard and reservists, veterans, military, spouses, family members, all who are with us today. On Monday, we observed Memorial Day, a day that means a great deal to San Diego, home of so many active duty and former military and their families. We honor the sacrifice of those who died for our country in many ways, by living our values, by making this a stronger and fairer nation, and by carrying out a smart and principled foreign policy. That's what I want to speak about today, the challenges we face in protecting our country and the choice at stake in this election. It's a choice between a fearful America that's less secure and less engaged with the world, and a strong, confident America that leads to keep our country safe and our economy growing. As Secretary of State, Senator, and First Lady, I had the honor of representing America abroad and helping shape our foreign policy at home. As a candidate for president, there's nothing I take more seriously than our national security. I've offered clear strategies for how to defeat ISIS, strengthen our alliances, and make sure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. And I'm going to keep America's security at the heart of my campaign. Because as you know so well, Americans aren't just electing a president in November. We're choosing our next commander-in-chief, the person we count on to decide questions of war and peace, life and death. And like many across our country and around the world, I believe the person the Republicans have nominated for president cannot do the job. Donald Trump's ideas aren't just different, they are dangerously incoherent. They're not even really ideas, just a series of bizarre rants, personal feuds, and outright lies. He is not unfit to hold an office that requires knowledge, stability, and immense responsibility. This is not someone who should ever have the nuclear codes, because it's not hard to imagine Donald Trump leading us into a war just because somebody got under his very thin skin. We cannot put the security of our children and grandchildren in Donald Trump's hands. We cannot let him roll the dice with America. This is a man who said that more countries should have nuclear weapons, including Saudi Arabia. This is someone who has threatened to abandon our allies in NATO, the countries that work with us to root out terrorists abroad before they strike us at home. He believes we can treat the U.S. economy like one of his casinos and default on our debts to the rest of the world, which would cause an economic catastrophe far worse than anything we experienced in 2008. He has said that he would order our military to carry out torture and the murder of civilians who are related to suspected terrorists, even though those are war crimes. He says he doesn't have to listen to our generals or admirals, our ambassadors and other high officials, because he has, quote, a very good brain. He also said, I know more about ISIS than the generals do. Believe me. You know what? I don't believe him. He says climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese. And he has the gall to say that prisoners of war like John McCain aren't heroes. Exactly. He praises dictators like Vladimir Putin and picks fights with our friends, including the British Prime Minister, the Mayor of London, the German Chancellor, the President of Mexico, and the Pope. He says he has foreign policy experience because he ran the Miss Universe pageant in Russia. And to top it off, he believes America is weak, an embarrassment. He called our military a disaster. He said we are, and I quote, a third world country. And he's been saying things like that for decades. Those are the words, my friends, of someone who doesn't understand America or the world. And they're the words of someone who would lead us in the wrong direction. Because if you really believe America is weak, with our military, our values, our capabilities that no other country comes close to matching, then you don't know America. And you certainly don't deserve to lead it. That's why, even if I weren't in this race, I'd be doing everything I could to make sure Donald Trump never becomes president, because I believe he will take our country down a truly dangerous path. Unlike him, I have some experience with the tough calls and the hard work of statecraft. I wrestled with the Chinese over a climate deal in Copenhagen, brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, negotiated the reduction of nuclear weapons with Russia, twisted arms to bring the world together in global sanctions against Iran, and stood up for the rights of women, religious minorities, and LGBT people around the world. And I have sat in the Situation Room and advised the President on some of the toughest choices he faced. So I'm not new to this work, and I'm proud to run on my record, because I think the choice before the American people in this election is clear. I believe in strong alliances, clarity in dealing with our rivals, and a rock-solid commitment to the values that have always made America great. And I believe with all my heart that we're still, in Lincoln's words, the last best hope of Earth. We are not a country that cowers behind walls. We lead with purpose, and we prevail. And if America doesn't lead, we leave a vacuum. And that will either cause chaos or other countries will rush in to fill the void. Then they'll be the ones making the decisions about your lives and jobs and safety. And trust me, the choices they make will not be to our benefit. That is not an outcome we can live with. As I see it, there are some important things our next president must do to secure American leadership and keep us safe and our economy growing in the years ahead. These are all areas in which Donald Trump and I profoundly disagree, and they are all critical to our future. First, we need to be strong at home. That means investing in our infrastructure, education, and innovation, the fundamentals of a strong economy. We need to reduce income inequality because our country can't lead effectively when so many are struggling to provide the basics for their families. And we need to break down the barriers that hold Americans back, including barriers of bigotry and discrimination. Compare that with what Trump wants to do. His economic plans would add more than $30 trillion, that's trillion with a T, $30 trillion to our national debt over the next 20 years. He has no ideas on education, no ideas on innovation. He has a lot of ideas about who to blame, but no clue about what to do. None of what Donald Trump is offering will make America stronger at home, and that would make us weaker in the world. Second, we need to stick with our allies. America's network of allies is part of what makes us exceptional, and our allies deliver for us every day. Our armed forces fight terrorists together. Our diplomats work side by side. Allies provide staging areas for our military so we can respond quickly to events on the other side of the world. And they share intelligence that helps us identify and defuse potential threats. Take the threat posed by North Korea, perhaps the most repressive regime on the planet, run by a sadistic dictator who wants to develop long-range missiles that could carry a nuclear weapon to the United States. When I was Secretary of State, we worked closely with our allies, Japan and South Korea, to respond to this threat, including by creating a missile defense system and warhead should its leaders ever be reckless enough to launch one at us. The technology is ours. Key parts of it are located on Japanese ships. All three countries contributed to it. Militaries will run a joint drill to test it. And it's also the legacy of American troops who fought and died to secure those bonds because they knew we were safer with friends and partners. Now, Moscow and Beijing are deeply envious of our alliances around the world because they have nothing to match them. They'd love for us to elect a president who would jeopardize that source of strength. If Donald gets his way, they'll be celebrating in the Kremlin. We cannot let that happen. That's why it is no small passing thing when he talks about leaving NATO or says he'll stay neutral on Israel's security. It's no small thing when he calls Mexican immigrants rapists and murderers. We're lucky to have two friendly neighbors on our land borders. Why would he want to make one of them an enemy? And it's no small thing when he suggests that America